Hey, thank you so much, Shruti. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you guys all about the Common App or personal statement essay. My name is Jane. I'm the founder of PeerOne, and we are on a mission to demystify the college application process. So I'm really, really excited to be here today. And we have definitely a lot to cover in the 30 minutes. So I'll get right to it and make sure I leave some time, hopefully in the end, for any questions. And so today we're going to be talking about, what are the objectives of the admission committee? I think it's always really important to start here, as the admissions committee will be the audience for your entire application. So as with any good essay, movie, book, or anything, you always want to keep your audience in mind. We're going to talk a little bit about what is the role of your college essay in your overall college application, as well as the two components of any good college essay. What are the common app essay prompts really asking you, as well as topics to avoid on the Common App essay. And then we'll finally wrap everything off with how to get started with writing. I know that's usually an area that students tend to struggle with. And so the admissions committee has two main objectives. Number one, they're looking for evidence that you're going to be successful, not only on their campus, but beyond, right? And so your entire college application really is evidence, and that they're really looking for strong evidence to convince them and to make them feel reassured that you're going to be successful. So for example, your grades and your test scores gives them confidence in your academic potential that you're not going to fail out in their first year. Your extracurricular shows them your interest, and your achievements lets them know that, hey, if you achieved great things in the past, that's a great indicator that you'll continue that on to the future. Secondly, they're looking to recruit a well-rounded freshman class. So there's a lot of students out there that feel the pressure to be like, hey, should I be showing all of these interests that I have and have an application that's all over the map? Really, what admissions committees are really looking for are students with a point. So overall, you guys will make a really kind of well-rounded freshman class. So everyone coming in has different perspectives, interests, experiences, talents, and that's exactly what they want when they're kind of putting together their freshman class. I think this is a really good time for me to note that, a lot of students will take rejections throughout this process really personal, and I don't want you guys to do that, right? And in looking at the objectives of the admission committee, they a lot of the times will have a specific kind of student that they're looking for already in mind, simply because they want to make sure that each piece fits into this well-rounded freshman class that they're trying to put together. So sometimes even if you have really strong grades, really strong test scores, really great extracurriculars, and you end up being rejected, it's not really a personal attack, even though it may feel like one. It's really, you might not fit into exactly what they're looking for this particular year. So keep that in mind as you're going through this process, because one question that I get a lot is students will be like, how do I deal with rejection? How do I not take it personally? And this is one way to kind of remove yourself from that and to understand, in their decision, they're looking for something and I might not be the best fit. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how the role of college essays play in admissions. And so the college admissions essay gives admissions officer a different perspective on you beyond your academic achievements, test scores, and extracurriculars. As you all know, with your academic achievements, test scores, and extracurriculars, that really only tells part of the story of who you are. So let's look at this example of Jack and Jill. So Jack has a 4.0 GPA. He has a 1540 on his SAT. He's president of the biology club. He's shadowed a local doctor as one of his extracurriculars. He plays the violin, and he's a pre-med hopeful. Let's look at Jill on the other hand. She also has a 4.0 GPA. Instead of the 1540 that Jack has, she's a 1550. She's president of the chemistry club, shadowed a local surgeon, plays the piano, and is also a pre-med hopeful. So if you're just looking at their academic achievements, test scores, and extracurriculars, tell me, if you were the admissions committee, who would you accept? Probably be having a pretty difficult time being like, they both look like pretty good candidates. Like, which one should I accept? And this is kind of what the admissions committees are currently dealing with, especially with admissions becoming increasingly more competitive. So most students going in, especially if you're aiming for an Ivy League or a more competitive college, like every student almost coming in has the prerequisite of having great, really strong academics and really great extracurriculars. Now they're like, okay, we need something more. And really your college essays is that differentiating factors, right? Because if you look at, let's say, Jack and Jill as this example, and you look at their essays, you might be able to get insight into, what really motivates them and what's inspiring them or motivating them to go pursue a career in the medical field. So upon reading an essay, the admission committee finds out that, Jack, he saved his dad's life when he was 6 years old. And that's the reason he wants to become a doctor in the future. Whereas Jill, maybe she went back to her hometown in rural China and realized how privileged she was in North America to have access to great health care healthcare, whereas in rural China, she saw families firsthand having to make the tough decision of foregoing medical treatment simply because they couldn't afford it, right? As you can see, just from that small piece of information, it makes both of these individuals very, very different. So going back to the objective of the admissions committee, that helps them decide which one would be a better fit depending on what they're looking for in terms of their well-rounded freshman class. So this is really important because a lot of students will downplay or discount the role that college essays can play in admissions, and they'll be like, I have really strong grades, I have great extracurriculars, I'm all set, right? But really, if this is a prerequisite and everyone also has that, you got to be able to give something more. So I definitely encourage you all to take your time with your college essays. Definitely don't be stressed out because that's not going to be help, but it is going to play a really, really crucial role, especially now, given how competitive college admissions are. So the two components of every great college essay is this. First, you want to be able to tell a story. And I want to focus here a little bit just because you have 650 words on your Common App essay, right? And the biggest mistake that students tend to make is that they spend, I would say, maybe 500 words telling the admissions committee a story. But this is really not that important because what they're really looking for is the second piece of that, which is the reflection. Like, what does this story mean to you? Like, why was it significant or important that you wanted to tell us about this? And how did the story help shape who you are today? And did this story shape you in some way, right? And this reflection piece is meant to be hard because the admissions committee are looking for students who are both emotionally intelligent and also emotionally mature, right? So being able to really reflect on your experiences and understand the impact and the significance of that on you shows both emotional intelligence as well as maturity. And not every student is able to do that, right? So please, please, please don't make this common mistake of just using a bunch of details to make the story come alive, because I think you'll hear, or when you do your research, like engage your reader, add in details, make your narrative come alive. And I think that's where students get really, really hung up on the first component of the story part of it, right? But if you think about the objective of your college essay, it's really a chance for them to get to know you, right? And just by telling them a story doesn't really help them understand you, but that reflection piece really does. So really spend some time on this reflection piece of your essay and make sure that's the meat of your essay. And I'll definitely give you guys some brainstorming questions to help you guys get started. But keep this in mind as you start writing your college essays. And so I want to kind of take some time to go over the 7 different Common App essay prompts, mainly because some students end up interpreting these prompts in a weird or different way that doesn't really kind of answer what these prompts are really asking you. So prompt 1 goes, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So really, this is asking you for something that isn't already mentioned on your activities list or achievements. This is really, really important because we've had students in the past where they'll just pick an extracurricular activity and use this as an opportunity to expand on that. But really, this one is giving you an opportunity to mention something that doesn't have to be related to your intended major or any of your extracurricular. Maybe it just might be a passion or something that is so meaningful for you. So for example, a student in the past wrote about their pen collection. They were obsessed with collecting pens, like knowing the ink, the ballpoints, everything you need to know about pens. Like that's not anything related to their intended major or impressive or whatever it is in any sense, but that was something that was important to them, right? So use this as an opportunity to give something that's really not related to academics or extracurriculars, but for some reason is really, really important to you. Prompt 2 says, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you and what did you learn from the experience? The most common kind of topic that we see for this prompt is the typical, I was playing in the championship for my soccer game and then we lost and then I didn't give up and then I came back stronger and we won the next year. Like, please, please, please avoid those sports stories. What this is really asking is the focus is on you and your definition of failure, right? There was an example in the past where a student wrote about one year she was so caught up with everything going on in her life that she forgot to send a birthday card to her grandpa. When you first listen to that, you're like, that's not very impressive. That doesn't sound like anything significant. But for her, it was very significant because ever since she could start remember, she on every year for her grandpa's birthday, she would write a handwritten card, right? And in this year that she forgot, she realized, hey, like when I have so much going on, it's really easy to lose focus on your own priorities. To her, that felt like a failure. So don't be pressured into being like, okay, is this failure impressive enough? Or is this like too basic for me to talk about with the admissions committee? No, because if the focus is on you, whatever topic you choose will be okay and will be great. So make sure the focus is on you and your definition of failure. And if we go back to the two components, the story is not that important. It's really that reflection piece. So if you can show the admissions committee why this particular experience, story, or moment was significant for you and why you thought of it as a failure, that's more than enough to answer this prompt. So prompt 3 says, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? So this is essentially the diversity question, right? It's essentially asking you to tell them about a time you met someone who has a different perspective than you and what did you learn? When we go back to the objectives of the admissions committee and them wanting to recruit a well-rounded class, it's inevitable that you're going to meet somebody that comes from a different background who has a different opinion, right? So they want to make sure that you're someone that embraces diversity and is open to challenging beliefs and as well as having your beliefs challenged, right? So if you had it in this an experience with something like this would be a great prompt for you. Prompt 4 goes on to say, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? This one's a little bit, you can take it for face value. This is the gratitude appreciation prompt. So if you had a moment where you felt, wow, like I'm so appreciative, or wow, I'm feeling such gratitude for an act that this person did for me, like you can definitely go with this prompt. There's no really kind of hidden thing for prompt 4. For prompt 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So this is the before and after prompt. So you want to think about it like before this accomplishment, event, or realization, you were like X, and then after it, you were like Y, right? And I think a really common one here would be the classic kind of immigration story. So before I immigrated, I was living in a country and I was X, and then after coming to North America or wherever they immigrated to, I was like Y, and that's totally okay as well. Just make sure again the focus is on you, because we've had students in the past make comments such as like, hey, like does my immigrant story kind of sound like a pity party? Like, is this okay? Well, if you're just focused on the story part of it and you're describing everything except for why it was important to you, then it is going to be a pity party in a comparison where you're going to feel like, is this significant enough or is this impressive enough? But if you put that perspective and focus onto yourself and in talking about, you know, why was immigrating to a different country impactful for you, then it no longer becomes a comparison because everyone has a different perspective, right? So kind of keep that in mind if prompt 5 is the one that you're leaning towards and is the one that you want to write about. Prompt 6 says, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this is the kind of passion prompt. The core of this question is, why are you obsessed, right? And if you look at what the admissions committee is looking for in a successful candidate, or what these kind of Ivy Leagues or more competitive schools are looking for, they're looking for students who have an intellectual curiosity or vitality, right? So if you're really passionate about learning and you can show them that for whatever that you're passionate about and you're able to take the initiative and the steps to kind of learn more and to dig deeper, that's really kind of strong evidence that you're someone that is intellectually curious and has intellectual vitality. For schools like Stanford, this is something that's super, super important, right? Even if you're not good at something, having passion really takes you up, I would say probably like 80% of the way there, right? And so this is something that's really important to them. I left off prompt 7 because that's the one that like it's the open one. If you have anything that you want to talk about, feel free to use that. So if none of these 6 prompts prior resonate with you, then prompt 7 might be a good idea for you, but definitely don't recycle an essay from English class that you got a good mark on, being like, yeah, I already wrote this. This is a really good piece of writing, because again, the objective of the Common App essay is to really for the admissions committee to get to know you, right? So it's not just any topic that you wrote a good piece on. It's really an opportunity for them to learn something more about you that isn't already on your academics as well as your activities list and extracurriculars. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about these topics to avoid. I do want to preface it because I don't think any topic is off limit. It's really how you talk about it, right? Especially if the focus is on you. I do want to mention these 6 mainly because these are just the ones that students tend to end up with some cliche essay, or the one that they have the highest risk of just messing up and resulting in an essay that just doesn't add too much value to their entire application, because you do have limited space on your college application. You really want to be strategic with how you use the space everywhere to let the admissions committee know something that's different about you, right? So number one, obviously what you want to avoid is a resume of your life as well as your achievements. Like they can kind of see that on the activities list as well as the achievements, right? So you don't need to recount that again. And for an admissions officer, if they're going through hundreds of essays a day, going through a resume of your life and achievement is going to be very, very boring. So just do not feel the need to do that. And I want to stress this, and I put this as number one, simply because I think, again, when students go through the college application process, you have this pressure of feeling like I got to be impressive. In order for me to stand out, I have to be impressive in some way. And that's why a lot of students end up even subconsciously defaulting to just recounting your life and as well as your achievements. So definitely avoid that. Number two, which I mentioned a little bit about already, the sports injury challenge and success. This is just such a cliche topic that every student, a lot of students end up writing about, simply because, again, going back to that piece of wanting to be impressive, they wanted to show the admissions committee how they're not going to like default in the face of failure and they're able to come back and come back stronger. It's like blah, blah. This is definitely something they've heard year over year, thousands of essays ago. So they just try to avoid it if you can. But again, with that being said, if there was a moment that was really meaningful and impactful for you, remember, like you can set the story as like this was in a sports setting and I was in my championship game. But if that reflection piece is really focused on you, that is okay as well. And that's really the thing with all of these topics. So don't see a topic on here, and if you had an idea of writing something that you see on here, be like, okay, well, I can't write about it because Jane said this is a topic to avoid. Definitely don't think about it like that. Think about it as in like, okay, if I reflect on it, like what is it to me and why is this important to me? Number three is the family of high achievers. So everyone in my family is a high achiever, and therefore I am also a high achiever. Well, if you're applying to college, and especially if you're looking at more of the competitive ones, I'm pretty sure everyone applying is also a high achiever, right? But with that being said, of course, if the focus is on you and why it was meaningful for you, then you could definitely consider it. But it's just most of the time when you see these kind of essays, they're not done in a right way that will really resonate with the admissions committee. So if you can avoid, try to avoid, because I guarantee there's definitely another moment that's more meaningful for you than to focus and talk about every member of your family and why they're high achievers. So you must also live up to those expectations and also be a high achiever. Number four is the immigrant story, right? And why I put that on there is that when students tend to write about their immigrant story or their family immigrating to a different country, they end up putting the focus on the family and all of these things that aren't really related to themselves. So if you're thinking about an immigrant story, but the focus is on you, definitely write about it. But what we end up seeing in the default is that students just end up narrating the years that they immigrated to whatever country, and the focus really isn't on them. Number five is the tragedy. So the death, the divorce. Again, the focus in these kind of stories end up being about the other person, so the death or the divorce, and not really about the student. And really, again, the essay is really an opportunity for the admissions committee to get to know you. But if you end up spending all 650 words talking about what happened when your parents are going through the divorce, what would the admissions committee learn about you? Right. And then number six is just academics, like working hard in a challenging class. I'm pretty sure if they can see your transcript and your grades, as well as the letter of recommendation for your guidance counselors, they can assume that you worked hard in the challenging class like everyone else that was also in that class, right? So you want to use this opportunity wisely and strategically to talk about something that they can't already kind of conclude from your academics as well as your transcripts and your extracurriculars. So now we're on to the best part, which is how to get started. And for most students, this is really the hardest part, just because I think this is the first time in your career or in your academic career where you're asked to really put the focus on yourself and to really reflect, right? And so these are my kind of favorite brainstorming questions to help you guys get started. The first is really kind of sit down to think about, how would you describe yourself 3 to 5 years ago? So any kind of distinct characteristics, maybe put down a few adjectives to describe yourself 3 to 5 years ago. And then the next question would be, who are you now? So the same kind of process process is question number 1. So this will kind of get your creative juices flowing. And then you go on to number 3 and looking at the difference between the past you as well as the present you. So what are some of these key differences between the past you and the present you? Maybe focus on 2 to 3 key differences, right? And then you go to the next question that's asking, what were some events or situations that have heavily impacted this change and transition? Remember, it doesn't need to be the textbook significant event. It could simply be an event that was significant because of its significance to you, right? So as you can see, it's kind of in chronological order going through these questions. And really, I don't want you guys to look at these questions as like, hey, I'm just doing this because Jane put it on the screen. Let me just get through this process and I'll somehow land on this topic. The more time you kind of spend reflecting on these questions, I think the better of a topic and the more meaningful of a topic you might land on. And then finally, which is what should be the bulk of your essay, is what did these events teach you and what did you learn from it and why was it important, right? And so questions number 1 and 2 should really kind of help you start thinking about who you were before and who you are now. So that kind of transformation. And the question 3 helps you kind of pinpoint some of the differences that you might want to focus on. And question 4 helps you brainstorm a little bit deeper into what specific moments, events, or situations, what heavily impacted these kind of changes. And then really the bulk of your essay should be focused on 4 and 5. So 4 should be the quick story piece of the component, the 2 components of the essay that I spoke about a little earlier. So number 4 should really be like a quick kind of story to set the context, and then 5 should really be the bulk of your essay. So that gets us to the end of my presentation. We do have around 5 minutes for some questions. So now I'm all ears for you guys. I know I kind of sped through everything really quickly because I wanted to make sure we had enough time to cover everything, but I'm all ears and I'm happy to stay a little bit late if you guys have any other questions.
All right, thank you so much, Jane. That was really, really good. So we did on the Google form, you were able to submit questions, which I have here for the person who did submit. But if you did come up with questions when Jane was presenting, please put like the raise your hand mark on you, and you can unmute yourself so we can go in like an orderly fashion. But I'll just first do the questions that were submitted through the Google form. So 2 you already kind of like answered. So I think the first one that you didn't answer really was what is the right time to like start to start writing the essay?
The earlier the possible.
Right.
Earlier the possible, or earlier. I don't know, my brain is farting right now. Yeah, you get what I mean.
Right.
Like start now. You should have started actually in the summer, because the more stressed out you are as closer you get to the deadline, the more your brain becomes foggy and it becomes harder for you to see clearly, especially on the reflection piece. The more that you kind of focus on thinking about what was an event that was meaningful for you. I'm a huge believer in like manifestation, for example. It's like even in your subconscious, it'll start kind of really kind of putting together these pieces for you. So the more time that you have to really focus on that reflection piece, the more meaningful of an essay that will definitely resonate with the admissions committee. So if you haven't started now, start now. But the other piece of that is also you guys have to consider, you guys are senior students, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys are applying to 7 to 10 different schools. So that's a lot of essays that you need to be writing, and your academics and your extracurriculars also don't stop, right? So you want to give yourself the luxury of time. So that's why the earlier you start, the more time that you guys have to focus on everything and not get stressed out. Because I'm telling you, if you're stressed out, you are not going to be producing your highest quality work. So if you haven't started, start absolutely right now. And I'm not sure if Shruti mentioned, I will definitely share with Shruti a discount code for us. What we have is we actually are coming out with a college application playbook that will cover everything that you'll need to know to get started. We pride ourselves on being very, very affordable because we're on a mission to make sure that every student has access to the resources that they want. So I'll definitely share all the information with Shruti so that she can share it with you. So don't be stressed out to be like, oh, I don't know where to start. Like, what do I do? But I want to get started, because that will definitely lead to procrastination. So if you are really stuck and you're like, okay, I don't know where to start with the brainstorming questions I shared, or go into our playbook and I'll kind of break down everything for you guys.
Right. Awesome. And actually, this is a question I had personally. So I know like the time limit you put was like 3 to 5 years in the past to like, like an event that happened. What if it's like before that? Do you think that's okay?
100% that's okay. I think it's just for a lot. I put 3 to 5 just because a lot of students will be like, how am I supposed to remember who I was 10 years ago? But if you remember yourself 10 years ago, great. Absolutely great. Like there's like, take everything I said with a grain of salt, just because this process is for you, right? There's no secret formula that everyone goes through that are like, okay, this is proven to be successful. I'm happy to give you guys some frameworks and some guidance into the right direction. But like, don't be so focused on like 3 to 5, but I have something from 10 years ago or 8 years ago, or even 6 years ago, like just, that's outside of the 3 to 5. So don't worry about that. Like if that's something that's meaningful for you, 100% I support it. I
Awesome. Thank you. Because I think my idea was like a little bit like maybe like 8 years ago. So I'm like, is that too late?
No, definitely not.
Awesome. Okay. So that was all the questions that I had that people submitted and I had personally. If you have your own questions, anyone in the audience, please like just unmute yourself or like put the icon of the hand raising, and then you can unmute yourself and ask. So I'll give it like a minute to muster some courage to talk. It's okay.
I won't bite through the screen, I promise.
Or you can put it in the chat, whatever, rose your boat.
And if you guys end up thinking of some questions after that I didn't cover, feel free to send them to Trudy and she can email them to me. I'm always happy to help wherever I can. So if you don't have any questions right now, that's okay. And if something comes up later, I'm definitely happy to help you guys answer those as well. Tough crowd today, guys.
I think it's still like the early morning, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. But that's okay. That's okay. I want you to get you all back to your Saturday. So thank you guys so much for your time and joining this session today. Like I said, my offer still stands. If you guys have any follow-up questions, or if you guys are going through writing your essays and you're like, oh my God, I'm stuck. What did Jane say again? Feel free to message Trudy. I'm definitely happy to help wherever I can. Like I said, I'll share our discount code. So should you guys need a little bit more of a comprehensive resource, definitely look into that. If you guys aren't already following us on Instagram, definitely follow us there. We share lots of free tips, advice, as well as scholarship information. I know that's a piece that students definitely need a little bit of support on. So if you guys need any more information, feel free to follow us there as well. But I'm always open via email as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane. So thank you so much for like partnering with the Gift of Learning. We really, really appreciate it. And everyone, so Jane, like whenever you have time, like you can share that discount code and I can share it with everyone who came here today. And also please check out PeerOne Marketplace's services. They're really, really good. They really look out for all facets like affordability and just helping you for the sake of helping. So please check them out. They're really awesome. And thank you so much for coming. All the people who came today, it really means a lot. And this is my first webinar, like doing it by myself. So it's one for the books. Thank you.
Okay.
So, bye guys. Thank you. I'm gonna stop recording now.